Welcome back, football fans, to another edition of Answer the Call podcast. I'm your host, Tim Collins, and I am joined by a very special guest, Jason Colenso from Three from Deep. Let's go. Welcome in, Jason. How you doing, buddy?
Fantastic, man. Thank you for having me, Tim. Excited to be here. Excited to talk about some fantasy football, man. I've been talking tons of basketball here lately on Three from Deep, so it's nice to kind of jump over and get into some fantasy football, man. So super excited to be here, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, man, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to bless us with your presence. I'm ready to talk some fantasy football. I'm actually doing a fantasy draft over the weekend, and I got another one coming up. So maybe my league mates won't see this and steal some of my players. But I got to tell you, I did really good. I'm actually gonna tell you how I did real quick,
Go for
and
it.
you guys are gonna be shocked, okay? Because let me tell you, I robbed some people in this draft. I committed some robbery. I made some trades, and so I got Amarian Hampton at 1-2. I got Travion Henderson at 1-6. Amika at Ekbuka at 2-2. Matthew Golden fell to 2-7. I don't know. Maybe people are sleeping on him, but I took Colston Loveland at 1-7. Mason Taylor at 2-6. Bayshaw Tootin at 3-7. Kyle Williams at 4-1. Elijah Arroyo at 4-3. Xavier Restrepo at 4-4. And Pat Bryan at 4-6. So I traded away some of my veterans, got some of those rookie picks, and I think I committed some robbery. Like I feel like my team could compete next season. So
That's definitely some good pickups, but all's fair in fantasy and war. So sometimes those picks pan out, sometimes not so much. So looks good before the season, but once you dive into the season, it's a whole nother story. It's a whole nother animal, buddy.
right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So we got our top five rankings at each position. We got quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight ends, and we're even going to provide you with some of our sleeper picks. We're going to give 5 sleeper picks each, and we are going to throw in a dart throw, a real deep sleeper pick. So we're going to get started, guys, right away in the quarterbacks, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to go 5-4 or 5-1. Yeah, we're going to go 5-4, but we're going to go 5, and then our best one will be obviously the number 1 ranking. Would you like to start us off, or would you like me to go ahead and do that?
It's your show, brother. Go ahead, you start us off, and I will follow your lead. Let's see what we got here.
All right. So first up is Mr. Shadir Sanders. All right, and I know what you're thinking. Why would you have him ranked in the top 5 when there's so many quarterbacks in Cleveland? Because he is a Sanders, and I think he's got that dog mentality in him. And he's kind of been talking with Tom Brady, who was a 6th-round pick, and we all know how that went. And
Yes.
Tom Brady's kind of teaching him a thing or two. Kind of taking him under his wing just a little bit. And I got to tell you, I'm really excited to see how he does. I actually think he has the potential to be the QB1 week 1. So I have him as my
Wow,
5th
week
ranked
one.
quarterback. What's up?
I said week 1. Really?
Oh, yeah, he has the potential. Now, whether that happens, that's a whole different ball game. But he's definitely one of my favorites, and I'm definitely rooting for him. So
Not sold on Kenny Pickett as the number 1 quarterback in Cleveland. He's going to beat him out. He's going to beat the old dog Joe Flacco. I don't know.
yeah, I mean,
Quarterback
Joe
room.
Flacco off the couch. I mean, come on. I mean, I hand it to the guy. He's good, but Flacco just needs to be a veteran mentor at this point. And Kenny Pickett, who couldn't start in Pittsburgh, I mean, come on now.
It'd be
And Dylan
interesting.
Gabriel, he's a left-handed quarterback, so nothing against the kid, but the cards are already stacked against him already. So
Gotcha. Well, my number 5, I'm going to go Quinn Ewers. When I look at the quarterbacks, especially in fantasy, these rookies, I look for the potential of being a starter. And
okay,
who Mr. Ewers is sitting behind. Tua, aka
Mm.
Mr. Shell Shock. We don't know how many more hits he's got left in him. Look, I hope he plays healthy, and I hope he has a great season because he's an unbelievable quarterback. But there's always that. Every time he gets hit, everybody winces. So if you're talking about a kid that can come in and make an instant impact, played well in Texas. He's got weapons. He's got Devon A. Chain back there. Tyreek Hill is still on that team. Jalen Waddle. So, I mean, he's got some stuff. He's got Jonnu Smith, a little nice safety valve, who is a really, really solid tight end. So Quinn Ewers, I think, can succeed in that offense. So if you're looking for somebody that has the potential to start right away as a rookie, especially lower in the draft, you could probably get him off the waiver wires. I don't think anybody's going to be kind of hunting Quinn Ewers out, but I really see him making an impact in Miami. And I think he may have the potential to start this year playing behind Tua.
I thought we were doing top 5 rankings, not sleeper picks already, because Quinn Ewers to me would be more like a sleeper pick than a top 5. But, I do like Quinn Ewers. The only thing, he had that nagging injury, and I think that's the whole reason that he fell so much, because the Quinn Ewers, in 2023 was definitely lights out and was talk of being the first quarterback taken off the board in the NFL draft, but then he had that injury. So it'll be interesting to see. I am kind of curious. They did take him. I mean, maybe it was for depth. Maybe they don't believe in Tua, which I mean, his concussions will probably get the best of him someday. So.
Yeah, I look for that value, man. And the NFL stands for not for long. So all these players are subject to injuries, but especially in fantasy football, you're looking for kind of an impact guy that you can pull off your bench. So I got some faith in Ewers, man. I think he is, not just a sleeper, but he has the talent to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. So who do you got number 4?
Number 4 is, well, he's he's not a starter yet, and he has a little longer to go, but I like Jalen Milroe for the Seattle Seahawks. He's got 4.3 speed. He's got a strong arm, and Sam Darnold's contract isn't guaranteed beyond this year. I mean, I know they locked him up for a 3-year deal, but they could essentially get out of this deal after this season and not really owe him a whole lot of money. Right. They drafted Jalen Milroe for a reason in the 3rd round, and I got to say, him with JSN and Tim Walker and Zach Charbonnet and the new tight end, not to mention Cooper Kupp, that'd be some great weapons to have. And, in my dynasty draft that I'm just doing over the weekend, Milroe actually fell to like the late 3rd round. So, I mean, you could probably nab him in the second round and kind of steal it from your league mates. And, maybe you have Sam Darnold, and so you can sit him right there and let, just in case something happens to Darnold, boom, you still have a starting quarterback. Now, I do want to point out that these rankings are more for Superflex, and they're dynasty rankings. They're not, redraft. We're talking strictly dynasty rankings here. So keep that in mind. Jalen Milroe is a young quarterback who can sit behind Sam Darnold a year, learn the NFL, and then, he's got that strong arm, and who knows, maybe the new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, wants to air it out in Seattle.
You never know. And he does have some talent. He's a little raw. And that's a little bit, of a sleeper pick too. I'm going to say that on there, but I think he definitely has a talent. But Sam Bradford had an amazing year last year, even though he kind of fell flat and saw some ghosts in the playoffs there for the Vikings. But I think he has the potential in Seattle to really have a great season. I don't think you can get any farther away from New York and the Ghost, so maybe that'll help him out a little bit. So my number 4, I kind of have a 2-headed monster. I got Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders, because a lot of it's going to depend on the depth chart and how these guys in Cleveland come out. So that quarterback room is a hot mess. I really wish they would put it on Hard Knocks because I would love to be in that room, a fly on the wall with all those guys in there and all those personalities. God, I would love that. That would make for some great television to have Sanders and all these other guys in there.
So I have
But
a question for you, real quick. You
go for
you
it.
listed both of them, okay?
Yes.
Gabriel and Sanders. Is it like a 1A, 1B for you, or do you see one of them being a little bit higher ranked than the other one? Like if so, like the option is there. They either take Dylan Gabriel or Shadur Sanders. Is it like a coin flip, or do you see it as one being a little bit better than the other one?
I have this as a 1A, 1B. Look, they both have talent. Gabriel, I think, is a little more mature and has been in a little more of a pro style offense. Sanders, raw talent, but is he going to be coachable? And I know we're not going to get into some of the things why he fell and personality and all that stuff, but is he going to accept being coached in some of the things that he has to work on? So I think
Okay.
that's going to be the tale on how they get ranked, or what are they, quarterback 2, quarterback 3, who's going to be what on the depth chart. So I have them 1A, 1B. I don't give a nod to either one of them. I think it's going to have a lot to do with who studies, who goes out there during practice, who does all this good stuff. And I'm so excited to watch this QB battle. I think this is going to be interesting, and this is definitely going to be podcast fodder throughout the offseason, all the way into the season, just to watch this stuff coming out of Cleveland to see who's going to start. But they have some weapons there, so even if they were to put one of these young quarterbacks, with Quinshawn Judikins for Jerry Jeudy, you have some guys, David Njoku. So, I mean, they have some players, and that defense, I'll tell you what, that's a great defense there in Cleveland that gets slept on a lot because the offense was so bad last year. So I'm excited to see who comes out of this. And in Dynasty, where you have like that taxi spot where you can kind of throw a rookie quarterback in there, grab one of these guys, because you never know who's going to slide in there and all of a sudden get thrust into the starting position. Because, as Kenny Pickett, the bar is not that high. So I have a feeling that he may last maybe a quarter or a half in the first game, and then we'll see who gets called up next. But this is going to be great television, that QB room there in Cleveland.
I'm actually gonna go ahead and call my shot right here. I'm gonna call my call, so to speak. And my call on this is Kenny Pickett doesn't make the 53-man roster.
Wow. Really?
I think Shadur Sanders does. He comes in and he proves it. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel's not going anywhere, taking a third-round pick. I mean, that's still pretty high, for a quarterback in the NFL. And I think, Joe Flacco was brought in because, they need some veteran leadership. You can't rely on Deshaun Watson because, for other reasons. But I think the odd man out kind of becomes Kenny Pickett because they don't really owe him anything.
Over Watson? Really? Over Watson?
Listen, so Watson will still be on the team because he'll be on the PUP list or the IR list, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So he's not going to be on the team officially. Kenny Pickett, they declined his 5th-year option, so that they don't even have belief that he could be their guy beyond this year anyway. So I think the odd man out will just turn out to be Kenny Pickett, and he'll be packing his bags and looking for another team.
That's an interesting call. I'm waiting to see that. Again, good drama for us, man. I love it.
So as Browns fans, we have been robbed since the Browns are not on Hard Knocks this season.
Oh, that would have been so great. Oh, that would have been must-see TV, man. Oh, good stuff. All right.
Okay, so number three, we're moving right along, and Tyler Shough. Tyler Shough is my third ranked quarterback. In the words of my buddy Will, what in the shuck is going on around here? All right? What in the shuck is going on around here? How can he be ranked so high? I mean, it's really obvious. The retirement of Derek Carr, and the Saints drafted him at 40 for a reason. Over Shadur Sanders, over Dylan Gabriel, over Quinn Ewers, over a lot of quarterbacks not named Jackson Dart and Cam Ward. So,
Right.
you know, he was the third quarterback taken off the board. He's my third in my rankings. He goes to a team that, you know, they're going to be airing it out because they're probably going to be behind anyway. The defense, it's good, but they tend to allow a lot of points. And for me, I just look at it as one of those that, you know, he gets it by default because there's really no serious competition in New Orleans in that quarterback room. Let's be
Right.
real. Jake Hayner ain't it. Timu version of Spencer Rattler, he's not it. So, or the Timu version of Patrick Mahomes in Spencer Rattler is not it. So, I look for Tyler Shook to come in and shake things up and be the starting quarterback. And for obvious reasons, they took him in the second round. So you know, Kellen Moore's the new head coach there, and we've seen what he can do with the quarterback. You know, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, and stuff like that. So for me, he's my third ranked quarterback, and I got to tell you, you know, maybe he could be, you know, solid for 3 to 5 years, and then they reevaluate it. But I mean, Kellen Moore definitely brought him in for a reason, and the Saints ownership knows that the Saints are kind of in rebuild mode, and so it might take Kellen Moore a few years to turn this team around. And they seem to be very patient with Kellen Moore on that, so very good for them.
Right. And I guess great minds think alike because Shuck is number 3 on my board too. He was thrusted up there with the retirement of Carr. That just made it a little bit easier for him. I don't see him starting it all this year. I think he is a pretty raw
Wow.
talent. I think they're going to roll Rattler. Look, that offense is atrocious right now. You have an aging Kamara. Tyreek Hill is still there, so you still got the Gadget Man, Inspector Gadget. Go Tyreek, go Hill. But your wide receiver core is a little suspect. I mean, you got Olave, and Shaheed, but after that, it kind of falls off a little bit. So why would you risk putting your potential future quarterback out there to get crushed? Throw Rattler out there, see what he can do. If he gives you a good season or a halfway decent season, you know you're winning because now you have your rookie quarterback learning behind somebody. But he does have the potential to start this year. That's why I have him at 3 because it's essentially a Cleveland kind of situation. You got a starting quarterback that probably won't be the starting quarterback for much longer. So your path to the promised land is a little bit easier. But I like Shuck, but I think he's not going to start this year. I think if the Saints are smart, they would sit him, give him a clipboard, learn the quarterback position, watch Spencer Rattler go out there, have an abysmal year, get yourself a top draft pick next year, and then let him start. But we'll see. This is going to be interesting. The Saints, they're going to have a lot of fighting to do in that South there because there's a lot of teams above them that got so much better in this draft. So I just don't see them risking their rookie quarterback.
What in the shuck are you talking about? He's not going to be the starting quarterback. You know, honestly, in the fantasy draft that I just did, I mean, honestly, he fell beyond Jalen Milroe and some of these other guys, you know. So maybe even the fans are kind of seeing what you see there in the sense that, you know, he's not going to be the starter this year. Maybe they don't want to be, they're not patient enough. If you're patient, if you don't need a quarterback right now, like if you have 2 good starting quarterbacks,
Yep.
by all means, take Shook in the second round in fantasy drafts, maybe late first round, you know, because for me, I'm in a position where I always tend to get at least 2 quarterbacks in my super flex like pretty early. So I have my
Right.
2 starters, and then my third is just always kind of like a bye week fill in anyway. And so, you know, I don't go looking in the draft for quarterbacks unless I just really needed one. You know, like maybe you had Derek Carr, so now you need a replacement. So
Right.
maybe you can be patient, maybe you can't. But Shook is the third ranked quarterback, and I kind of feel like the next 2 are going to be pretty similar. I mean, just the
Probably.
consensus. But I have Jackson Dart as my second ranked quarterback. You know, he could arguably be the best quarterback in this class. You know, he has Brian Dable at head coach for at least
Right.
this season. We don't know how long Brian Dable is going to be the head coach of the New York Giants with an 18-32-1 record. I still don't know how he became the head coach and how he's became the head coach for so long. But apparently he's saying the right words and he's doing the right things to keep his job because the owner kept him and the GM around. Now they have Jackson Dart, which I have to assume he won't be the week one starter, but I have to assume that he's going to be taking over any little struggle by Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart is in that lineup. He has a strong arm. He is underratedly mobile. I mean, his mobility isn't going to blow you away, but it's definitely underrated, and he can move out of the pocket, extend the play when he needs to. He's got the playmaker in Malik Neighbors. They've got a run game. They've got a solid defense. So, I mean, it's all the makings for Jackson Dart to be great in this league, and I'm excited to see how it is. Like I said, I don't see him being week one, but he's a quarterback that's going to come in and instantly click with Malik Neighbors. My only downside is he did go to Ole Miss and under Lane Kiffin offense, and that offense tends to be a little kind of easy for quarterbacks. One read, one, two reads, and the ball's out. He's not going to have that time in the NFL, so he will definitely have to improve on that just to be that much better. But I have him as my second-ranked quarterback.
I love that pick. Look, I am a Giants fan. They call me NY over at Boom Broadcasting for a reason because I am a huge New York. I'm always in a New York state of mind. I love Jackson Dart. I loved the pick. I think he's going to be a phenomenal quarterback, but not this year. I think with Russell Wilson there, you have a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Here we go again. I can't stand teams that throw rookie quarterbacks out there and hope that they're going to hit like a CJ Stroud or Jaden Daniels did last year. I want Jackson Dart to sit back and watch Russell Wilson and learn. I think he'll end up being QB2. I think he's going to beat out famous Jameis Winston for that. But sit. I think he's going to be great if you pick him up in Dynasty, throw him on your bench, let him sit there. So if he does get a start, you're going to have a phenomenal starter. But as a Giants fan, please don't start him yet. Let him learn the game of football. Let him grow as a quarterback and then put him out there next year and let's see what you got. But I think this team, the way it's built, I think Russ is going to cook this year. Brian Dable with his connection to Josh Allen. That's kind of why I think they kept him around because they want his QB magic because he might not be the best head coach, but he does do pretty good with his quarterbacks. Although we're going to ignore Danny Dimes because that's something we're just not going to talk about. I buried Danny Dimes a long time ago, but my number two, and again, I'm going with someone that can pretty much start, maybe even day one, is going to be Will Howard in Pittsburgh.
Whoa.
Will Howard in Pittsburgh has the potential to be a starter actual starter day one. You're going against Mason Rudolph. I mean, right there. You just talk about someone that might not even be on the roster when it comes out. Mason Rudolph. So he doesn't have far to go. Good 6th-round pick, and he's got DK Metcalf, Woods, Austin. He's got a great tight end and Freiermuth. He's got some good running backs. So you talk about he's got some weapons around him. So for a rookie quarterback to come in and succeed right off the bat, went to Ohio State, coming off a national championship. So if anybody can succeed, especially in fantasy, jump in as a rookie quarterback and get you points. If you need a super flex or you want to have a guy on your bench so that somebody else doesn't have him, he's the one to pick up because I think he has the clearest path to being a week one starter. Besides Cam Ward, he is going to be the next Pittsburgh Steeler starting quarterback week one.
It's really interesting that you say, so that somebody else doesn't pick him up because some of these players on my list are actually for that reason. Maybe they're not going to be as impactful for you as you need them to be, right. But having them on your team versus your opponent's team could be the difference between you competing for a championship and them competing for a championship. And at the end of the day, you want to be competing for the championship, not your opponents. And well said, Will Howard, you don't want him on. Maybe there's a team out there that just needs like a quarterback here and there, and to kind of get them over that hump. Maybe they were a playoff team last year, and they take Will Howard late first round, and now you missed out. So well said on that, Jason. And I think I mean we're gonna reveal it, but for obvious reasons, because it is our top five. But Cam Ward, top five. He's our first rank. He's my first ranked. He was the first quarterback taken in the draft, and he got reunited with Xavier Restrepo, his favorite wide receiver in college, which he pushed for the team to sign him. So I look for Cam Ward to come in. I felt like they did a really good job putting the pieces around him in the NFL draft. They got some wide receivers and some tight ends for him. So I really think Cam Ward can come in and just be that dynasty quarterback that you need for the next 5-10 years. And he's a quarterback that definitely could lead to some championships, and he could also, lead other people to championships. I'm really curious though, because for obvious reasons, Ashton Jeanty will probably be the number one pick in fantasy football drafts. I'm kind of curious where you would take Cam Ward in like a Superflex dynasty.
That's a good question. He's definitely in, I'd say, my top 10 or 12.
Okay. So
I would put him, overall. So like if you're drafting and you're picking in that third or fourth round and you don't have a good quarterback, or you got a couple of quarterbacks, but you hear some rumblings about somebody wants Cam Ward, you pick him up. I would definitely try to grab him as early as possible, the first rookie quarterback coming off the board. I think he's better than a lot of the other quarterbacks that are starting that are not rookies. So, I mean, he's in that top 10 or 12 of all 32 teams. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I think that's pretty high for a rookie quarterback because, I mean, he is a rookie, but I love the way he talks. He loves football. He studies football. He plays football. I think he's going to be a phenomenal football player. They brought in, Tyler Lockett. You're going to have Calvin Ridley. You got Traylon Burks, so he's got some veteran wide receivers that are going to help him out. Tony Pollard and Taj Spears. He's got some veteran presence at the running back. They help the offensive line a little bit. So I think he's going to have a successful season, and I think he's that kind of guy that can get you not only passing points, but some rushing points. Watch him closer into the red zone because he is super athletic. So he's one of those guys, a la Lamar Jackson, that can kind of make plays happen. So I think that's going to be his really selling point in picking him high in certain drafts. And I even think in standard drafts, he's a guy that you can pick up if you don't get a good quarterback, or your first quarterback is solid, but you want a solid backup. I think he's going to generate points. They got him slated for about 15 points a game, but I think he's going to earn more than that because he has some weapons around him and he has the talent to do it. So I'm excited. Cam Ward, I think he's going to be up there. Watch week 1 and week 2, how he comes out. I think people are going to want him. And then talking about these rookie quarterbacks too, guys, if you're out there and your team is a little weak in certain areas, they make great trade bait. You may have somebody, you start talking these guys up. You may have somebody that, hey, you got 3-4 quarterbacks. What are you doing with Cam Ward? Next thing you know, you can get a first round pick for next year and a starter or a top wide receiver. So, that's the nice part about, especially in the dynasty leagues, is you can use some of these high draft quarterbacks as trade bait and get you a little bit of a stronger team. So don't even think that they're just, let me just sit them on the bench and not do anything. They can provide you with points without even playing a game.
Woo! Woo! Well, guys, that wraps up the first segment, the quarterback rankings. And let us know in the comments, what you think. Whose call do you got, okay? Whose call you got? You have mine, your host, or do you have the guest, Mr. Jason Colenso? Let us know who you agree with and why. So we have running backs, we have wide receivers, we have tight ends, and we have sleepers. Holy crap. Don't go anywhere, guys, because, Answer the Call is going to give you all the fantasy advice that you need to help win your fantasy drafts. Moving right along with the top 5 running backs. Now, I started with the quarterback. I'm going to let Jason here start with his number 5 running back.
You know what? I'm excited. I've been waiting for this here. I'm going to be a
Oh,
homer a
boy.
little bit here. My number 5 is my man, Cam Scatterbo, however you want to say it there, from Arizona State, playing next to Tyrone Tracy Jr. I am so excited about this guy, not just as a Giants fan, but from a fantasy football perspective. He already looks great
Oh, yeah.
in practice right now. People are talking about him. I love the dual threat. Over 1,700 rushing yards last year, 21 touchdowns, 605 receiving yards. So if you talk about a kind of beefier CMC, here we go. Talking about, I put pads on and run into telephone poles. That's what I like to hear from my New York Giants running backs. So, and the dual running backs, I know a lot of guys are always worried about, who's the starter? But, look at Detroit with Sonic and Knuckles, with Gibbs and Montgomery. Yep. Look at Tampa Bay with White and Bucky Irvin. So two-headed monsters in the running back position works in fantasy. You don't need just one. And especially with guys getting hurt and that kind of stuff, he's a great pickup, but I love the dual threat. He's going to catch balls. He's going to come out of the backfield. This guy's going to be a bowling ball coming down that line. Watch out. Cam Scatterbo is going to be a phenomenal pickup. If you can get him, or either, mid-draft, you throw a third, fourth round, someone's not paying attention. Why'd you pick him? Look, I had one of my fantasy drafts. I had 2 first-round picks. I picked Scatterbo in the first round because that's how much I really believe that he's going to be a top running back in the league because he can catch and he can run. So watch out. Here come those Giants.
I have Cam Scatterbo just outside my top 5. I think he's probably like my 6th ranked quarterback or running back. Excuse me. Wow. Okay, so here's the thing I like about Scatterbo, and this isn't even related to football. I love his character. So he was doing an interview, and they were talking about having a chip on his shoulder, and they're like, you always seem to find yourself having a chip on your shoulder, and he goes, what have I proved at this level? That's right. I haven't proved anything. So, yeah, I have a massive chip on my shoulder because I still have to prove that I can do it at this level. I really respect that. And what that tells me for a running back is he's going to come in, he's hungry, and he is going to do what it takes to get this Giants team over that hump and back in the playoffs and Super Bowl runs and all that. And, you got Tyrone Tracy, is it? Kind of the dual threat, scat back type, and then right there on the goal line, just rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, as Chris Berman would say. That is a great attribute to have, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Maybe you've been living under a rock this whole time, and maybe you don't know, but the way that you win fantasy football is you score points. And what's the quickest way to score points? Scoring touchdowns. And I think Cam Scatterbo is going to just be a bowling ball, like you said, and like, who's going to want to tackle him late in the game? I mean, he's kind of like a mini version of Derrick Henry, not quite as big as Derrick Henry, but just like in sheer strength, who's going to want to tackle him in the late third and the fourth quarter? And like when the game's on the line, I played linebacker and D end, and I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't want to tackle him, not in the fourth quarter. So that is a good pick. Like I said, I have him just outside my top 5. My 5th ranked running back is actually a division rival, R.J. Harvey, a.k.a. Quadzilla.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw the picture at the rookie training camp, but my God, quads for days on this guy, man. And like, I just, I watched him at UCF, and, he had 20 plus touchdowns. And this past season, like, I think 1 to 3 or 4 running backs to do so. He's a underrated pass catcher. And that Broncos running back room, I mean, come on now. I mean, I feel like a high schooler could come in and win the job there because I don't trust, either one of those other running backs. I think RJ Harvey's going to come in. Sean Payton drafted him in the second round for a reason. There was still a lot of talent there, guys. Still a lot of talent in that second round. And Sean Payton said, hey, this is my guy. And something that, our friends over at Shovik Sports, mentioned to me in my little chat was he was studying film of Alvin Kamara and Darren Sproles. So, and he's like, I want to have that kind of impact for the Saints, or not for the Saints. I want to have that same impact for the Broncos that Alvin Kamara did for the Saints. Right. And I got to tell you, that kind of scares me. And I wish I would have heard that before I made my rankings, because he could have easily went up my board just a little bit. But currently, I have him as my fifth best running back. And I mean, a dual threat, in an offense that, needs the pass catchers, because minus Cortland Sutton and Evan Ingram, they don't really have a whole lot. I mean, I know they drafted Pat Bryant, but they're always needing help out of the backfield. And with a guy with quads like that, I mean, he's going to be hard to bring down too. So,
gotcha. My number 4, we're going to talk about them Cleveland Browns again there. Quinshawn Judkins. He's only going to be behind Ford, built Ford tough, so not a lot of competition ahead of him. So possibly starting kind of running back 1 right out the gate. They got him slated for about 180 points for the whole season, which is about 10 points a game, but I can see him doing more than that. He is going to be a starter. The quarterback position, of course, is question marked, in Cleveland. So I think they're going to run the ball a lot. So Quinshawn Judkins, my number 4, I think he's going to be 6 foot, 221 pounds. So you talk about just a big, beefy kid that is going to run through that offensive line, and they're going to use him a lot because I don't think they're going to have a really big passing game there in Cleveland. So give me Quinshawn Judkins at number 4.
That is a solid pick, my guy. Solid pick. So I have him. I'll talk about him in just a moment. But when I was doing these rankings, I'm gonna tell you 3 and 4, just kind of like a 1A, 1B. My number 4 ranking is actually his teammate at Ohio State, and that is Travion Henderson.
Wow.
And looking back now, I kind of wish I would have flipped him and put Judkins at 4. Because you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to just go ahead and put Judkins at 4.
Go for it.
I'm going to go ahead and agree. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and do that because I actually took Travion Henderson in the first round after taking Amari Hampton in the first round. So right. I'm going to go ahead and agree with you that Judkins is the 4th best running back in this class.
The best ability right now is availability, and I think he's going to be available. And starter day 1, when you talk about running backs and getting points right out the gate, that's what I look at. Who you got for number 3?
Oh, well, I have Travion Henderson. I have Travion Henderson for number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah. I flip flopped. Judkins went to 4. Henderson bumped up to 3. The only reason I put, the only reason that I just flipped them is because Henderson doesn't really have a lot in terms of competition. Ramondre Stevenson got benched last season for fumbling the ball, and the Patriots really took him kind of early. I think they took him early in the second round. So for me, that tells me that the Patriots believe in him. And Henderson is a really good pass catching back. Now, I know that doesn't help fantasy, but that's going to help him get on the field. So the more you're on the field, the more trust you're going to earn. And honestly, Henderson could easily be a great back for 5 to 6, 7 years for your fantasy team. And, on this team that doesn't really have a whole lot of pass catchers, I know they got Stephon Diggs and they drafted Kyle Williams, but on a team that doesn't really have pass catchers, he would be really good in PPR formats, which is what I usually play. And catching out of the backfield, he can block. Obviously, he's a very underrated runner. He's not going to blow you away. He doesn't have, blazing speed, but he has decent speed. He has 4.4 speed. which is really similar to Juckins. So for me, those two are kind of interchangeable, though. I mean, you could make an argument that they're 3A, 3B, type, kind of like the Shadur Sanders and the Dylan Gabriel earlier on in the show for you.
Gotcha. My number 3, and you talked about him earlier, is RJ Harvey. I love him in Denver. I think he's going to be a starter right out the gate. And you talked about the Alvin Kamara comparison. I think that's what's going to help is he's got Sean Payton, who has been dying for that type of running back to pair with Bo Nix, because Bo Nix is the man. Look, I love me some Bo Nix. I am sold on him. He is a phenomenal. That's like the second coming of Josh Allen. Big kid. He runs a lot, but they've been looking for someone to pair with him so he doesn't have to run as much. And I think with RJ Harvey there, he's going to fit the bill. He's going to fit right into that Sean Payton offense. So watch him making noise there in Mile High. I love him. I think he is probably in most drafts, even standard drafts, he's going to be a highly sought after draft pick. I think he's potential to be late first round, early second round pick, even in standard formats, because he is going to make an instant impact in that Denver Broncos team.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Instant. And hey, can't touch my Knicks. All right. Don't touch my Knicks.
Love
Knicks. So my second, and we kind of got a little off schedule, but that's okay. My second ranked running back is, I'm going to catch a lot of hate on this, and that's fine, is Ashton Jeanty. I know. Everybody, he's a generational talent, and he's the best dang running back in the class.
Whoa.
I do want to point out something, okay? He was doing that against Mountain West Conference, okay? The Mountain West competition, so to speak, and
it was
Mountain
the blue field.
The Blue Field is not SEC talent, is not ACC talent, is not Big 12 talent, and is dang sure isn't NFL talent. So, do I think he's going to be great? Yes. Do I think that he's going to be the best back? I mean, we don't know. He went to Pete Carroll, who loves running the ball. He learned from the Marshawn Lynch days to always hand the ball off to your bell cow. But, it just kind of makes me wonder, like, our team's just going to try to stack the box a little bit more. And I know that he had a habit of breaking 7-8 tackles right at the line of scrimmage. But like I said, that was in the Mountain West where they can't tackle apparently. And this is going to be big boy football. So I want to see how he does. And so I put him at the second best quarterback or second best running back. I don't know why I keep saying quarterback. I'm stuck on quarterbacks for some reason. The second best running back in this class. And for me, he's not as good of a pass catcher as some of these other backs. And so I think that kind of, you have to take that into consideration, especially in PPR formats. And that's what this is kind of based off of, is PPR and Dynasty. So I have him as my second best running back.
Wow. And I don't know if that lightning bolt behind your head has anything to do with that pick too, but my number 2 is going to be your boy Omarion Hampton. I think he's a phenomenal pick. There's a reason why the Chargers picked him in the first round. Oh, yeah. But the only reason I don't put him ahead in number 1 is because they still have Najee Harris, who is he's not a great running back, but he's a serviceable running back, and I think he's going to take some touches, especially early on. Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, that pass game was so sketchy last year. We'll see if getting Trey Harris is going to catch some balls for him. You got Ladd McConkey, who I love me some Ladd McConkey, man. Ladd the Impaler. I think he is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. He is going to be a stud this year. I picked him up in one of my dynasty leagues too. But Hampton, I love him. I think he's going to succeed in that offense. I just don't know if he's going to be number 1 right out the gate. I think he's going to get, he's going to have some growing pains with Najee Harris being in front of him.
I understand where you're getting at. And I mean, obviously, for obvious reasons, you took Jeanty number 1. And I put Omarion Hampton at number 1 over Jeanty because I feel like he is a better pass catcher out of the backfield. He is a really good run blocker as well. But having a quarterback like Justin Herbert with Ladd McConkey and now Trey Harris is going to really just kind of open up the run lanes for Amari Hampton. Najee Harris is on a 1 year deal.
Right.
So, and he went to the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh, who wants to run the ball. That's all he wants to do. He wants to smash mouth style football, run it down your throat. And I got to tell you, they have a really solid offensive line to run behind. And he's really explosive. So once he hits that hole, he's not going to burn you in the open field, but he has the explosiveness in the hole to kind of really just, get the extra yards that he needs. So for me, Amari Hampton went there because I think the surrounding cast is better for Amari Hampton. The surrounding cast will open up the run lanes for Amari Hampton. So I have him as number one. I promise you it's not because I'm biased by any means. I will be the first one that if I don't agree with something, I'm going to call the Chargers out. So, but Amari Hampton is my RB1.
And mine is Ashton Jeanty. Look, Ashton Jeanty fell to probably the best offense that he can fall into. When you talk about Pete Carroll, look who Pete Carroll coached there in Seattle, which was beast mode, Marshawn Lynch. So you talk about beast mode 2.0. Here comes Ashton Jeanty. So I think Pete Carroll's going to use him just like he did beast mode. They still are sketchy at the quarterback position. Brock Bowers, all-world tight end, who is phenomenal, the number one tight end coming out of last year. And we'll talk about tight ends here in a little bit. But I think that's why Jeanty's going to get a lot of touches. You have Geno Smith, who is he's not the most mobile guy anymore. So you talk about him handing the ball off. So Beast Mode 2.0, watch Jeanty there in Las Vegas. It's going to be his game. He is a phenomenal running back. So watch out for Ashton Jeanty coming out of Las Vegas.
Well said. Well said. All right, that wraps up the running back segment, guys. Once again, let us know in the comments whose call you got. Do you got 3 from deep, Jason Colenso, or do you have your boy Tim here at Answer the Call? Let us know, guys. Wide receivers, though. Wide receivers. Let's go. I'm going to get this started real quick and real easy. My number 5 wide receiver is Trey Harris. Our boys at Shovik Sports, okay, Austin, he actually had Trey Harris listed as his best wide receiver in this year's class. I don't have him quite that high, but I do have him at 5. He goes really to a perfect setup. Najee Harris, Amari Hampton in the backfield. Ladd McConkey is a great route runner. Justin Herbert can throw the ball and put the ball exactly where Trey Harris needs it. And, Trey Harris has the size to win those 50-50 balls in the red zone. Once again, how do you win your fantasy matchups? You score points. The quickest way to score points, score touchdowns. Trey Harris is a big body wide receiver, and I think teams are going to sleep on him. They're going to be focused more on Ladd McConkey. And, they're going to be thinking about Mike Williams. He's not going to be doing much, but they're going to be thinking about him. And I think Trey Harris could easily have a really good career in L.A.
I do like that pick. My number 5, I'm going Matthew Golden. Look, I would have put him a little bit higher, but right now that wide receiver room is hella crowded there in Green Bay, man. You got Reed, Watson, Dobbs, Devontae and Wicks, McCole Hardman. So, you have a super packed wide receiver room. It'll be interesting to see how Green Bay kind of fills that, and kind of empties that out a little bit. I wonder who's going to be the odd man out in that. But Matthew Golden has the talent coming out of Texas. I'm just curious to see what they're going to do in the wide receiver room there. But he's definitely a top wide receiver to pick up, especially in your dynasty leagues, even in your standard leagues. I think he's going to be a solid wide receiver. We just got to see where he's going to fall on that depth chart. Is he going to be a third, fourth option? Is he going to be a second, third option? Christian Watson's hurt all the time. Every one of those wide receivers last year was really, really weak. Jaden Reed just fell off, man. I don't know where he went. He kind of just had a really poor fantasy year last year. So Golden has the opportunity to kind of slide on there. And, his actions during the draft there in Green Bay, how excited he was to play football in Green Bay, because he knows that if you succeed in Green Bay, you will be beloved. So I'm excited to watch him, but that QB room has me curious.
All right. Yeah, that wide receiver room, you just never know. And last year, I have had Christian Watson on one of my in one of my dynasty leagues, and one year, like when he was healthy, like I mean he's great, and then like he gets hurt, like you said, and then like Jaden Reed kind of came out of nowhere, and so everybody just kind of slept on.
I lost you there, buddy. Where'd you go? I think we lost him. So, but that's okay. We're still here. We're still live. We're talking about fantasy football wide receivers. I think when he comes back, we'll jump on his. I'm going to jump on and give you guys my number 4 until my man Tim comes back. I'm going to talk about Luther Burden over here for the Chicago Bears. I think he's going to be phenomenal for them. They picked up Rome Odunze last year. DJ Moore is still on that team. They don't have Keenan Allen anymore, so they don't have that third option. So I think Luther Burden is going to be a pretty good third option coming out of that backfield there. Coming out of Missouri, he's slated for it's about 82 points this year, but I think he's going to score more than that. He's a good catcher and he has breakaway speed. So you're going to have Odunze on one side. There you go. You came back. We lost you there. Sorry about that.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. The host, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, I wasn't in the studio and I was right in the middle of a take, and I don't remember what I was saying, and I don't know really what you said. Good job. I had you up on my phone here. So good job keeping the show alive, Jason. I really appreciate that, man.
We keep it rolling, man. We keep it rolling. I'm prepared for anything. But jump in, man. I think you were finishing up with your 5th pick there with that Green Bay wide receiver, and then we can jump right into our 4th. I kind of gave them my 4th, and I'll fill you in a little bit here, but jump in here, man. Get back.
Who's your 4th? Because I already gave my 5th. My 5th was Trey Harris, so.
My 4th was Luther Burden coming out of Chicago. That's the one I talked about. So I got a Packer and then a Bear. That's kind of cool. But you talk about I talked about Rome Odunze on one side. You still got DJ Moore there. No more Keenan Allen, so you're going to need that heavy third spot. He's going to be in the rotation. I know they drafted that tight end there too, who's going to be solid. Loveland, I like him. Cole Kmet, I think, kind of gets hurt from that, but we'll talk about tight ends later. But I like Luther Burden. He has an opportunity to be a solid 3 in that Chicago Bears offense.
Luther Burden, for me, I think I had him around like my 6th ranked wide receiver. And the only reason is because there is DJ Moore, there is Rome Odunze, there's Cole Kmet, there's, Colson Loveland, there's DeAndre. It's just kind of really crowded. Now, I will say Ben Johnson will do a good job at creating, Luther Burden. He drafted him for a reason in the 2nd round. Yep. So, but I have him as I believe he's my 6th ranked wide receiver. My 4th ranked wide receiver is kind of in another crowded wide receiver room, and that is Mika Ekbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State. He went to Tampa Bay, and he is honestly, I'm going to say this, he is probably one of the most underrated receivers in this class.
Really?
And he gets slept on a lot because he was in a wide receiver room with Marvin Harrison Jr. and and all this talent he was in those wide receiver rooms with, and he still produced at Ohio State. He was still putting up the numbers even with Marvin Harrison Jr., even with Chris Olave, even with some of these other guys. He was still producing at Ohio State. Ohio State has a history of putting up some good wide receivers. They've been doing it the last 3-4 drafts now.
Yep.
And he goes to another crowded wide receiver room. But Mike Evans, I love Mike Evans. He's a dog. He's my boy. But, he is on the back end of his career. We don't know Chris Godwin at the end of this season. I think they franchise tagged him or brought him back on a 1 year deal. So it's not guaranteed that Chris Godwin, and then beyond that, there's not really a whole lot. I mean, the tight end, Kate Otten, but I mean, Egbuka will surpass him in no time for targets. But if you have a spot where maybe it's late first round, early second round in these rookie drafts, and you can afford the wide receiver to not have immediate production, grab Egbuka. You won't regret it come next year or 2 years from now. I promise you.
I do like that pick, and he's definitely somebody. If you have a Mike Evans, if you have a Chris Godwin, he's a great handcuff. I know a lot of times we try to, especially in fantasy football, we try to handcuff our running backs, have your starter and then have whoever the backup. But I think Mbuka is going to be a great handcuff to have. If you have Mike Evans and you got Dynasty, grab Mbuka, have him slide in there, because if Evans gets hurt, he's going to slide right into that starting spot. So then you got somebody that can come in and jump in and get you points, and you don't end up losing a lot of points. So I like that. My number 3 is your guy, Trey Harris. I have him higher, man. I think he is going to be a phenomenal for the Chargers, man. Justin Herbert has been dying for somebody that can actually catch the football. Mike Williams, the human IR, he is always hurt, man. You got Quentin Johnson. Bring Stickum back, because he just can't catch the football. He had more drops last year than any other wide receiver. So he is dying for a wide receiver. I think Trey Harris is going to come in there, pair with Lad the Impaler there, Lad McConkey, and I think they're going to have a nice little tandem there, because now they're going to be able to spread the field. You talked about that running back. Now you got a two-headed monster at running back there with the Chargers there. So it's going to be interesting with Hampton. So watch out for Trey Harris. I think he's going to be in the top maybe 15, top 10 in wide receivers this year when it comes to fantasy points, because he is going to eat. Because, man, Harbaugh has been dying for somebody to be able to catch the damn ball. So I got him higher, man. I got to give you that love there, but he's going to be.
I appreciate that. Jason going 3 from deep on that one. That was great. My number 3 is actually Matthew Golden. The Packers didn't draft Matthew Golden in the first round just for funsies, all right? They didn't do that. They didn't draft him just, oh, hey, here's a wide receiver. Yes, the draft was in Green Bay. Yes, they haven't drafted a wide receiver since, gosh, I think I was in high school when the last time. I think it was 2002, and I was in 8th grade. I was actually in 8th grade the last time the Packers took a wide receiver in the first round. Matthew Golden, he's not the biggest wide receiver. I think 5'11", 6 foot, but he plays like he's big. And he is a very competitive receiver, and he will go and fight for them balls. And that is a wide receiver that you always want on your team. In my fantasy draft, I actually just got him in the second round. Like, I couldn't believe that he fell to the middle of the second round in my rookie fantasy draft. I was like, okay, you guys are sleeping on Matthew Golden. I'll go ahead and take him. Because even if I didn't need him, but like you said earlier, I don't want him going to my opponents. So Matthew Golden is going to come in, and he's going to become Jordan Love's best friend. They're going to have this chemistry, kind of like Batman and Robin. They're just going to become besties. And I think when it's all said and done, Matthew Golden could easily be, top 5 receiver in fantasy football this season. So I'm just going to do a little hot take, and Matthew Golden's a top 5 receiver in fantasy.
Wow, that's big shoes, man. Big shoes.
Big shoes. Big shoes. Hey, go big or go home, Jason. That's my motto.
There you go. There you go. Number 2, man. Who you got number 2?
I got Travis Hunter. He was drafted as a wide receiver. He went to Jacksonville. Liam Cohen, who is the former offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he likes running the ball, or he likes throwing the ball. He's used to having multiple wide receivers be productive. Look what he did with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. This is going to be a really good situation for Travis Hunter, because Brian Thomas Jr. is basically the lead wide receiver there. He gets to kind of come in and be the number 2. So he gets to come in and pick on those lesser corners. You know, a lot of teams don't have two great corners unless you're the Denver Broncos, but most teams don't have a second great corner. And so he gets to kind of pick on the lesser talented corner. So I think he's really going to shine. And the he's going to be kind of like a Tyreek Hill in the sense that he's just going to be in motion and his feet are always going to be moving, and he's just kind of like that twitchy wide receiver. And I think him being listed as a primarily as a wide receiver and then as a DB on certain plays is key. It's going to help teams in fantasy. He actually went third overall in my rookie fantasy draft over the weekend. So I look for him to go anywhere from that 3 to kind of 6, 7 in the first round in the rookie drafts. And I think he's not going to be as productive as the number one wide receiver on my list, but he's going to have a really good season. I feel like
That's a good pick. I have him just out of my top 5 because I am worried about that dual threat where they're going to have him play both sides of the balls. And, with the NFL, that's more opportunity to get hurt. So I was a little worried about that, especially when it comes to fantasy. And Trevor Lawrence throwing interceptions, at least he has somebody out there that can either play wide receiver or cornerback, and get help him with some of those interceptions he throws. My number 2, again, I'm going for strictly fantasy points, value, who's going to make some money this year. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver for the Houston Texans, my number 2. Look, the Houston Texans are dying for someone to pair with Nico Collins right now. Nico Collins, number 1. Who's number 2? You have Christian Kirk, who is, a substitute teacher kind of guy. He could be in there. Maybe he's a third or fourth option. You have Michi. So, you have some okay wide receivers in there. CJ Stroud had an off year last year, and a lot of it because his wide receiver weapons weren't there. Look, Tank Dell, man, I hope he gets better, but I don't even know if he's going to play football ever again. So they needed a number 2 wide receiver, and I think he's going to eat because you got to figure they're going to double Nico, so that's going to leave Higgins open. Watch CJ Stroud feed this kid. This is going to be a fantasy feast in Houston. So give me Higgins, number 2.
Higgins, number 2.
Yep.
I like it, man. I think I have him probably honestly as my sixth ranked wide receiver, maybe 7th. I'm not really sure. Higgins is a sleeper, and a lot of people are actually sleeping on him. I think a lot of people maybe have him more as a sleeper pick than a top 5, and if that's the case, then you're the sleeper. You're sleeping on Higgins a little too much. Very well, man. He could easily be a top, and he got that rookie deal guaranteed, like fully guaranteed. Never been done before. So obviously Houston sees something. He kind of reminds me of Nico Collins. And what better way to have one Nico Collins than to have 2 Nico Collinses? 2.
Exactly.
So obviously number 1 for me is Ted McMillan.
Yep.
Number 1 wide receiver. He's a big body. He goes to Carolina, where there's who's Bryce Young been throwing the ball to? Exactly. I can't even tell you. Most fans can't tell you who Bryce Young throws the ball to, and I think he's what 6'5". I mean, big body, big red zone target for such a little quarterback, and Bryce Young is only 5'9", 5'10", but I think even at 5'9", 5'10", you're going to see a 6'5" wide receiver, and he's going to become his favorite target. And I look for him to have a really good rookie season, and I look for him to honestly kind of being there and being that kind of franchise wide receiver that this team has desperately needed, honestly, since the Steve Smith days.
Right. And I got him number 1 too. Look, Carolina, their wide receiver core is not hateful. Coker showed some flash last year. I think he's going to be a really, really good wide receiver rookie coming out of last year. Xavier Leggett was a little quiet. I think if he can learn to catch the ball, I think he can be better. this year. They needed that number one. Look, I love me some Adam Thielen, but of course he's getting a little long in the tooth. But who better to learn behind than Adam Thielen? I think Ted McMillan is going to get a lot of those jump balls. He's just going to, Bryce Young's just going to close his eyes. Yeah, hey, hit the C in the end zone and I'll hit you. He's just going to jump up with that big body and bring down all kinds of passes. So I definitely like that. He's going to be a wide receiver monster for them. And in fantasy football, yeah, he's definitely a first round. He's worthy of, even in a standard leagues, of a first round pick because he's going to be that impactful to that team.
All right, there we go. Once again, wide receiver rankings. Whose call do you got? My man Jason over here was dropping some bombs. Next up is the tight end position, and this is honestly one of the hardest for me because there is so many wide receivers or so many tight ends, so many good tight ends that it was actually hard for me to come up with a top five. Not even going to lie. Number 5 for me is Harold Fannin Jr. for the Browns. Hey, guess what? He doesn't even have to change jersey colors because he goes from Bowling Green right to Cleveland. And I think he'll learn. This isn't really so much for this season. He sits behind David Njoku. So for me, this is maybe next season and beyond. Is where you want to be looking for the production. But I mean, he was like the nation's leading tight end, right? I mean, he had like 100 some catches, over 1,000 yards receiving. It wasn't the MAC though, so like I am kind of, the expectations kind of hinder those just a little bit because it wasn't the MAC. Kind of like Ashton Jeanty in the Mountain West, the competition just isn't as great there, and so Bowling Green didn't play a whole lot of people. So I have him as my fifth ranked tight end. And, I think that once he does get on the field, he'll be a great target for Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, or Joe Flacco because it's not going to be Kenny Pickett across the middle of that field. I can't do it, man. I just can't do it. So I can't do it.
That's good stuff. My number 5, Terrence Ferguson, coming out of Oregon. Coming in for the Rams. Rams kind of have a stacked tight end room there. They got Higbee, Parkinson, Davis Allen. So it's a little bit of an uphill battle, but I think at least 2 of those guys are going to be gone. Higbee's getting a little older. Parkinson, they signed him last year to a deal, but he really didn't do very much. So I think Terrence Ferguson has the opportunity to come in there and kind of just snatch being a top tight end from the Rams. So give me Terrence Ferguson from Oregon. I think he's a big body dude. He's going to catch some passes, and I like him there in LA. There, the Sean McVay effect. I think he's going to do very well there.
Okay. I like that. I actually am a little higher on Ferguson than you are. I actually have him as my 4th best tight end. Tyler Higbee's there, but he's old. He's injury prone. He's got Stafford. I wish Stafford was a little younger getting Ferguson because Matt Stafford and Ferguson with Sean McVay calling the plays would just be absolute lights out for like 5 years. But, Stafford is at the end of his career. I do look for whenever Stafford is done, obviously, Ferguson, it won't be this year. Maybe they go get a rookie quarterback. And what better way than get a rookie calmed down next season? Throw to a tight end. So I really like Terrence Ferguson. I have him as my 4th best tight end. And he goes to a team that, minus Tyler Higbee at the tight end position, there's not a lot. And, I mean, Devontae Adams is there, but, I mean, he's at the tail end of his career too. So Ferguson could be a piece for Sean McVay's offense for years to come.
I like it.
So my 3rd ranked tight end is Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor for the Jets. When you're the son of a Hall of Famer, you have a great chance of being great yourself, all right? He doesn't have he's another tight end that doesn't have a whole lot in terms of targets. The Jets have Garrett Wilson, and I know they drafted Arian Smith in the 4th round, but he has a history of drops. The Jets don't really have another tight end, I don't think. So Mason Taylor has a chance to come in early and be a playmaker for Justin Fields. And I like him even I would like him even if Justin Fields wasn't the quarterback, but I think this is going to be the kind of player that Justin Fields needs as he's scrambling out of the pocket. Maybe Mason Taylor is running like an out route, and he can just real quick and easy right to him. So
Gotcha. Let me throw my 4th out there real quick because I didn't get to throw that out there, but I had Elijah. You're fine, man. I had Elijah Arroyo out of Miami for the Seattle Seahawks. I have a feeling Noah Fant's not going to be there anymore. You got AJ Barner. So I think he's going to really thrive there with Sam Darnold. So Elijah Arroyo coming out of Miami, he was a heck of a player. I know he has some injury histories, and I think injury history, so that's why he kind of fell in the draft. But this kid is really good, so don't sleep on him. And then my 3rd, I'm throwing Colston Loveland in there as my 3rd. Michigan for the Bears. Look, he's still going against Cole Kmet. They have a ton of weapons now. You got Roma Dunze, you have Burden now, you have DJ Moore. So I mean, they're wide receiver heavy. He's going to get points. But I think he's going to get kind of lost in the mix until he finds his way in that offense. So my number 3, Colston Loveland for the Bears out of Michigan.
I actually have him as my number 2, and I hear you. Jason. All right, it's crowded, but he went to like one of the best offensive-minded guys in the league. He went to Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson loves running that 12 personnel, the 2 tight end set, and maybe he even runs the 22 personnel. So I look for Colston, and I'm gonna say this. Honestly, you can make an argument. Like I have him at 2. You can make an argument that he will be the best tight end in this class. Ben Johnson drafted him at number 10 for a reason. He drafted him over Tyler Warren for a reason. And I think that with Ben Johnson, Colston Loveland is going to be a great tight end. And this is somebody that you can really just kind of put in at your tight end spot and only take him out on the bye weeks. So I'm taking Loveland as high as I can.
Wow.
I'm not at the same time. I'm not going to reach. Like if the talent is still there, like a running back, or maybe somehow Ted McMillan falls, I'm going to take them first. But if Henderson and McMillan and Amari Hampton are already gone, and I'm sitting there at like 1.5 to 110 in the first round of the rookie draft, oh yeah, I'll take Loveland all day. So I have him as my 2nd ranked. Honestly, I probably should have put him at my 1st ranked after this little rant that I just went on, but I put him at number 2, and I just think that him with Ben Johnson is going to be lights out for years to come. So.
I like that. I do like that pick. And look, right now, guys, the tight end position in fantasy football is a premium. Tight ends are going often and early because once you kind of get out of those top 5, top 7, it just falls directly off, and then you're just a shot in the dark. So you get a chance to get a Loveland. You get a chance to get some of these guys. You better pick them up because, look, there's only one Brock Bowers. And then after that, Kelsey's, getting older, Mr. Swift, who knows what's going to happen with him. He still wants to play football, but, so like the tight end position is really thin when it comes to fantasy football. So my number 2, I'm going Mason Taylor. I'm putting him higher coming out of the Jet, with the Jets. He is going to be field safety valve. He doesn't have any competition. Stone Smart. Okay. So, I mean, he's going to be a top target right out the gate. So give me Mason Taylor. He's got that NFL blood pumping through him in his DNA. So it's going to come out there in New York because they are starving for something. Look, they still have a great running back there in Breece Hall, and then they got Allen behind him. So you got Fields, who knows how to distribute the football, and he's going to need that safety valve, and Mason Taylor is going to be that number 1.
Mason Taylor. I like it. Well, for obvious reasons, guys, Tyler Warren will be the number one tight end for both of us.
Yep.
What can this man not do is a question that I have for all of you. If you don't know Tyler Warren, you don't know football. I literally watched this guy snap the ball and score a touchdown on the same freaking play, man. Like he said, hike, and then the quarterback said, whoop. So if you don't know Tyler Warren, you don't know ball, and I'm sorry if you're sleeping on Tyler Warren, then you're definitely not going to win fantasy championships.
Nope.
The guy can do it all. He goes to the Colts at 14. You know, the Colts took him at 14. There's not a lot of competition in terms of tight end there, and honestly, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Danny Dimes or whoever they draft, I think they drafted Curtis Rourke. Whoever the quarterback is, they're going to be looking for a big body tight end, and Tyler Warren is that, and he can really stretch the field. He could even line up as wide receiver if you need him to. So Tyler Warren, no shot there. He's the number one for me.
He's my number one, too. The only thing that I'm really worried about is he is such a good blocker that they're going to have him blocking too much because Anthony Richardson's going to need his help to block them. But he is a phenomenal player. Watch him all over the field. You talked about it, him being a wide receiver. He is going to catch a lot of passes. He is going to be Anthony Richardson's safety valve. But that's the only thing I'm worried about is he may be in there to block too much. He is that good at being a blocker.
That is true. That is true. And when you are a blocking tight end, you do get that task of staying back to block more often than you need to. So that could hurt the fantasy side, but for obvious reason, he is both of just a little. All right, that wraps up the ranking section, and now we're gonna move on, and it's time to go to sleep. We have the sleeper picks. We have our 5 best sleeper picks. And then we got a little dart throw that we're going to throw at you. And I will let you get started. And we're going same thing, 5-1. And I'll let you get started with your number 5.
I appreciate that. My number 5, Taj Felton, Maryland, wide receiver for the Vikings. Look, he is a vertical threat. He's a big kid. I think he's one of those guys you can kind of get in the late rounds. It's going to slide. You take him, throw him on your bench. Because, look, I know they got Justin Jefferson. I know they got Addison. But after that, there's kind of a mishmash of, okay, who's going to be the third guy? This kid right here is a stud wide receiver coming out of Maryland. I live close to Maryland. Got to see him a lot. Man, he is ultra talented. He is tall. He is a vertical threat. He's got speed to burn. So they're going to be worried about Justin Jefferson. This kid's going to be open. So he is my sleeper to get you guys some points out there, especially if someone gets hurt, tweak something here and there, has to sit out maybe a week. He's the guy to put in.
That is very well. And I'm sure, not a lot of people have heard of Felton. I'm a big college guy, so I have definitely heard of a lot of these names. But, for an average fan, Felton is a name that you don't hear a whole lot of. Yep. And, at Maryland, he kind of was, that number one receiver. He's not the fastest, I don't think. He's not going to blaze, he's not going to burn you over the top or anything like that. But he's a really good route runner, and he is a big body wide receiver. So that is a very good 5th ranked sleeper from our man, Jason.
Who you got?
I'm going to go with a wide receiver myself. And he's a big body wide receiver. I'm going Dante Thornton Jr., who went to the Raiders out of Tennessee. 6'5", 4'3" speed. I know the Raiders aren't going to throw a lot, and they drafted Jack Beck in the second round, and they got Brock Bowers, and they got Ashton Genty. But back to Bryce Young and Ted McMillan, this guy is 6'5". Just lob it, like Chris Paul used to do to Blake Griffin for the Los Angeles Clippers, just lob city.
Right.
I like
it.
Thornton. He's not going to be like fantastic, but he could be a wide receiver that a bye week fill in can come in, get you maybe 6 to 10 points. I know it's not a lot, but for a sleeper pick, that is a decent amount of value. And you could probably, I mean, he's still available, probably maybe in the third, fourth, fifth rounds of these rookie drafts. And he could be a guy that comes in and just, he's going to be a bye week fill in for sure. But don't sleep on him. He could be, 6'5". I mean, I would think red zone targets. So
I like that. Like that. My number 4, I'm gonna hit you with a quarterback because there is going to be some sleeper quarterbacks in there. And we talked about that Colts team. And Anthony Richardson has kind of been playing underwhelming football. He tends to get hurt a lot. So Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame, he's a good rusher. He's a halfway decent passer. He has great completion percentage. Over 66% of his passes he completed last year for Notre Dame. So you talk about a quarterback sleeper, someone, again, you talk about a handcuff. If you pick up Richardson and you're just not sold on him, you want to make sure you have someone in the stables just in case. Riley Leonard, watch out for him coming up on the outside there in Indianapolis.
Oh, that is actually really good. And I didn't even think to do a quarterback in my sleepers. I'm not going to lie. So shout out to Jason for really thinking this out and being like, hey, I'm going to put a quarterback in here. And I do apologize. I was wrong. It's not Curtis Rourke. It was Riley Leonard at the Colts, so I did make a mistake on that. And for that, my bad. Riley Leonard, the only thing that scared me about him at Notre Dame was in the championship. I mean, they were just trying to run the ball in Ohio State. So, like, that told me that maybe Notre Dame didn't trust him. So I don't know what is happening there. But
that's just Notre Dame choking at the big game. They tend to do that a lot here. So I'm not putting that against them, unfortunately.
Okay.
Shots thrown.
So my number 4 is going to be another wide receiver. A lot of wide receiver sleepers here because this running back class is so deep that there could be an argument made that we had our top 5, but like even some players that we didn't list could easily be a top 5. So like when I say a sleeper, like I'm trying to think like a sleeper, and that is Alec Ayarmaner for the Titans, the wide receiver from Stanford. Cam Ward's got to throw to somebody, and I feel like they did take him kind of early. So for me, he's 6'2", ran a 4.4. He ran a 4.44 Wow, that is a tongue twister and a half. He does sit behind Tyler Lockett and Calvin Ridley, but they're aging vets. So beyond this season, Tennessee's really going to need playmakers to step up, and I look for this guy to step in. At 6'2", being a nice big body wide receiver on the outside. He's not going to burn you per se, but he is going to stretch the field just enough. And I think this could be a wide receiver that will be a playmaker for Cam Ward next season and beyond. So I like Alec Ayarmaner. I think that's how you say it.
I like it. I'm going to go number 3. Guys, I don't know if he's going to be a sleeper, but man, you better pick him up, man. Jalen Royals, wide receiver out of Utah State for the Chiefs. Now, you talk about falling into an offense where you're going to immediately succeed. Patrick Mahomes, again, you talk about someone that can please catch the football. Patrick Mahomes, tons of guys dropping passes last year. Tons of guys hurt. Rice hurt. You have Hollywood Brown on that team, but he's always hurt. I like Xavier Worthy, but he's not really a number 1. He's kind of that gadget guy, kind of out of the backfield. You kind of do a fancy, Andy Reid does them fancy plays. He's in there. So watch Jalen Royals succeed in that offense. I think he's going to be a stud with Patrick Mahomes at the helm. So Jalen Royals, you probably can pick him up later rounds, have him hiding there, and then when he hits and you put him in your starting lineup and all of a sudden he hits and everybody wonders like, wow, there you go. Jalen Royals, man. You heard it here.
Oh, Jason with a dagger. We're in overtime, guys, and Jason's over here hitting threes. All right. So my number 3 is the teammate of your number 2 wide receiver, and I'm going with Jalen Noel, wide receiver from Iowa State.
Wow.
And
Good.
the Texans did something really interesting in this draft. They drafted both Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. Now, if you've been following the show since around the Senior Bowl, then you have heard me say Jaden Higgins is a name to keep an eye on. And like I did say, I have him as my wide receiver 6. Now, Noel has potential to be a great sleeper pick in rookie drafts this season. Many people are sleeping on Noel, myself included. I am on that bandwagon of sleeping, okay? So 80 catches, almost 1,200 yards, and 8 touchdowns with Higgins still doing what Higgins did at Iowa State last season. Stephon Diggs left in free agency. Tank Dell's likely to miss the 2025 season. And like you said, his career might be done. They drafted him for a reason. Now it's kind of interesting because now you have two wide receivers that were teammates in college. They get to be teammates in the NFL. And what better way to have both of them get acclimated with the NFL than be opposite side of each other and catching balls from C.J. Stroud. Sleep on him. Don't sleep on him. I was sleeping on him until just here recently, so don't sleep on Jalen Noel anymore, though, guys. Take him as early as you can.
That's a really, really good pick. That's a solid pick, man. That's why that Texans offense is going to be that much better as they got really better in the draft here. My number 2, I'm going running back. It hurts me because I can't really talk about the Dallas Cowboys because as a Giants fan, it kind of gives me a little heartburn here. But Jaden Blue, running back for the Cowboys, I think is going to have a really, really impactful season. I think he's going to make some noise in fantasy football. Look, they got you Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and Deuce Vaughn. So again, not a lot at the top to go over. So Blue, I like him. I know the Cowboys didn't want to spend money on Henry, and that I think that's a sore subject to a lot of Cowboys fans out there. But this kid. I like this kid, my boy Blue. I think he's going to be good for the Dallas Cowboys, except when he's playing the Giants in that front four. But that's a whole nother story. We won't talk about that. But Jaden Blue, I think you'll be able to pick him up in late rounds, guys. You need running back depth in fantasy football because these guys, they get hurt, they go down. Look at midway through the season, man, how many starters tend to go out or how many guys get hurt, and you need that handcuff. You need the handcuff for the handcuff because even the secondary guys, I mean, look how many guys went down for San Francisco last year. They literally were pulling people out of the stands to play running back. That's how bad they were. So I think he's going to be a heck of a pickup right there. Stash him on your bench. Make sure somebody else doesn't get him. Go get him.
Jaden Blue, and I talked about him and actually Phil Maffa on a previous show when I was actually grading and talking about all the NFL teams' picks. And him paired with Maffa kind of has that thunder and lightning approach. Maffa has that power back with Jaden Blue, 4.3 speed. He's not the he's not the strongest back out there, but Dallas has a great line. And he's going to get to that edge real quick, and I like for him, and I think he can catch out of the backfield, so that's a good pick. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of sleeping on him until recently too. So don't sleep on Jaden Blue. My number 2, we're going to stay running back. My first running back sleeper, guys, and that is Devin Neal, running back for the Saints. Honestly, if Alvin Kamara wasn't there, Devin Neal has potential to be a top 5 back in this year's rookie class.
I like that.
But he's a great compliment to Kamara. I think in Kellen Moore's system, he's going to come in, be productive, running back out of Kansas, set some records there. And he's not going to burn you per se, but he's a bruiser. I mean, he's gonna knock you over. And, he had 3 straight seasons over 1,000 yards rushing. So maybe a lot of people don't know who Devin Neal is because he played for Kansas in the Big 12. Don't sleep on him. And if you have Alvin Kamara, who is out the door. He's on his final leg, so to speak.
Right.
Go handcuff Devin Neal, because then when he goes down, you still have a running back. Handcuffs are definitely great, especially if you can get him in the later rounds. So I really like Devin Neal, and he is my second ranked sleeper pick.
I like it. I like it. That's a really good one. You got to have the Saints need some help, so he has the opportunity to make an instant impact there, especially fantasy football wise. My number one, I'm still going running back. Bashul Tunton, running back out of Virginia Tech. I live here in Virginia, and I got to watch this kid a lot, man. This kid Tunton is a stud. He is going to come out of nowhere. Look, he's going to Jacksonville. Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne were horrible. They were the number 36 and number 35 running backs last year, and they never cracked 15 points, either one of them. So right now, Jacksonville is dying for a good running back, someone to come in. So this kid Tunton is going to come in and make an instant impact in Jacksonville. Watch him run the football and take the starting position job from both of those guys, because neither one of them were impressive last year. I have a feeling that one may be released. I have a feeling one may be traded at some point in time. So I like him. If you can, Bashil Tunton, I know I'm saying his name wrong, but again, the kid out of Virginia Tech, man, you can't beat it. He is going to be a starter in the NFL, and he's going to get some value. So again, if you have ETN, he's a great handcuff to have, man. So I like him better over Tank Bigsby as the handcuff in fantasy football.
Bashal Tootin, whatever his name is, it doesn't matter. King Bashul, okay, because I've been kind of big on this guy since the Senior Bowl. And at the combine, he ran I think it was a 4.37. No, 4.32. Sorry. He ran a 4.32 40. That's fast. Okay. He makes fast guys not look so fast. And,
right.
With Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr., on the outside and kind of really just taking those corners and those safeties down the field, that's going to open up a lot of running lanes for, Tootin. I'm gonna say Tootin. I think it is Tutton, but yeah, we're gonna go Tutton. I think that opens up a lot of running lanes for him, because I think defenses are going to be mindful of Travis Hunter running out there. They're going to be mindful of Brian Thomas Jr. and they're not going to want to get burnt deep, so they're going to probably drop an extra guy back in coverage, and that's going to open up an extra running lane. And he gets in the open field, and you're going to have a hard time catching him. 4.3 speed, so. I really like that. That's a great sleeper pick. And that was your number one, yeah?
My number one. Who you got number one?
All right, number one for me, man, I have been big on this guy. And I know I sound like a broken record here, guys. But I've been big. So my season doesn't end when the Super Bowl ends. My season doesn't end when the national championship ends. It honestly just kind of begins really for me, because you got the scouting combine, you got Senior Bowl, you got all this off-season stuff, and right. I really pay attention to a lot of it. And I watched the Senior Bowl. I was watching the practices. Kyle Williams from Washington State gets drafted by the Patriots. Now, some people are overlooking Williams because of Stephon Diggs. They see Stephon Diggs and like, oh, we can't take Williams. And I'm going to tell you, Stephon Diggs is an aging vet, and he's out the door, okay? Kyle Williams, he's not the biggest. I think he stands at like 5'11", but, you don't need him to. He does run really good routes, and he has strong hands for a wide receiver. And at wide receiver, that's what you want. You want a receiver with strong hands. I think he learns from Stephon Diggs, and it's going to be Drake May and Kyle Williams just lighting up the stat sheet for years to come.
I like that. That's a great pick, man. They definitely need that wide receiver help in New England. Drake May is going to need a big play guy there in New England. So I definitely like that pick. Now we're going to jump into the long shot, because, fantasy football, sometimes you got to go with your gut feeling. you got to go with your long shot. So I'm going to jump in here and give you guys my long shot here. Brashard Smith. I'm jumping in with my long shot, my man Tim. So I'm giving you my big dart throw, although I don't think he's going to be that big of a dart throw. Brashard Smith at SMU in Kansas City.
Woo!
Kansas City Chiefs were hurting at running back last year. Isaiah Pacheco injured. They didn't really use him towards the end of the season. You have Mr. Steele, which I don't think he's a top running back at all. Elijah Mitchell. Look at Kareem Hunt. They focused on, using him last year. So I think Brashard Smith coming out of SMU has an opportunity to be the starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. So he's a little bit of a dart throw. He's got some guys to climb over, but I think he has that opportunity right now, and I think he has that talent coming out of SMU, going to that Kansas City Chiefs offense. Watch out. That's my dart throw right there.
Woo! That's a good one. That's a good one. And I can see where that could be considered a dart throw because, he is in Kansas City behind Pacheco, behind Kareem Hunt, all those wide receivers. Like, that is honestly a great pick. Great pick. I honestly, he could have easily been a top ranked sleeper, even a top 5. I mean, not in this class, but like if Rashad Smith was in a different class, he would easily be like a top 5 running back in the rookie class. So Great pick. Closing it out there, and I'm going to give you my dart throw, and we're going to stay on the running backs. The running backs are finally getting some love from your boy here, and I'm going to get some heat on this one. We're blazing on this one, okay? Like, call me out if you want to. That's fine. Let me know in the comments. Find me on the socials. Wherever you follow, however you listen, let me know because I can promise you nobody is talking about this guy. And that is Ollie Gordon, Miami. Okay, he's a Dolphin, and there's a lot of running backs there, and there's Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but he's a bruiser, okay? And they already lost Mostart, and Jalen Wright isn't a power back. He's more of a speed back. Right. They needed that power back. They got a power back in Ollie Gordon. He's not going to run over you. In fact, I think he ran like a 4.6 140 at the combine. Not going to blaze in the open field. But I'm going to tell you, he is a bruiser. And if he can return to the form of 2023, last year, we're not going to hold that against Ollie Gordon. That was a crappy team from the start. And he played on the Oklahoma State Cowboys in college football. And the bad quarterback play, no offensive line. But I'm going to tell you, here in Miami with Josh is it Josh McDaniels? No.
No, who's there in Miami? I can't.
Not Josh, it's Mike.
I know. Mike, no,
it's
not
Mike.
Mike. What the heck is his name there? Now you got me thinking here. I can't remember here. Dolphins quarterback or Dolphins coach.
Mike McDaniels.
My is Mike McDaniel. Yep, there we go.
Yeah. So our boy Mike here, he's going to scheme up some plays. And like I said, the best way to win fantasy matchups is touchdowns. And I look for Ollie Gordon to really kind of be in the packages right there on the goal line. You know, maybe he's a fullback. Maybe they run like 2 running backs and he gets the ball. But he's going to be that bruiser, just kind of smash mouth style to kind of really give the Dolphins some of those touchdowns. So that is my dart throw. I don't know. I mean, he might not even make the team, but he currently right now he is my dart throw. So I like it. You had a great one. Let us know whose call you got. Do you back your boy, or are you going with the guest over here? So hey, Jason, real quick, why don't you tell everybody how they can find you and your podcast? That way they can go drop you a follow.
I appreciate that, man. Again, I appreciate being on here, man. Tim, this was awesome. Thank you so much for blessing me and having me come on here, man. It's been an honor. But you guys can catch me. I'm on the Boom Broadcasting Network there on the YouTube channel. Please go check us out. My show is an NBA podcast, 3 from Deep. It's on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. It drops at 12 p.m. You can catch it on demand. I also do during the season. I do Sideline Savants. I'm a co-host with my man Wayne Thomas, the commissioner. We talk fantasy football all through the season. So again, guys, Boom Broadcasting, jump on the bandwagon. Boom Broadcasting. We got some great content providers, and you can catch me there. Your boy NY Jason Colenso. Thank you again, Tim, for having me on here, man. It's been an awesome time.
Hey, man, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to bless us with your knowledge. Guys, if you've enjoyed the show, please like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends. That way more people can hear the call be answered at Answer the Call podcast. I am Tim. That was Jason. Until next time, you guys have a great day. Thank you again.